first of all, thank you guys for joining and giving your time for this particular session. And we have already crossed a couple of sessions where we have discussed many things about the Salesforce and the integrations architecture details, right? We discussed about SOAP, we discussed about REST, we discussed about external services, we discussed about the outbound messaging, we discussed about the platform event. So today, like that, we do have an interesting topic which is called CDC. In smaller abbreviation, you may call it CDC, and in the full name is change data capture. Okay, so change data capture. First of all, I want to share this particular thing that that CDC is completely a feature which is supported for any kind of outbound flow. When I'm telling that outbound flow means, so the source system would be your Salesforce, and the target system can be anything. The target system can be any external system made or developed by Java, .NET, and anything, right? But always the source system would be the Salesforce, because the data change, or the while the data change is happening, that is entirely happening basically inside your Salesforce, and all our intention is to capture that particular details, whatever is happening in Salesforce in real time. Not about that after some time or after some days. Yes, there is a provision that that particular capture, if it is not done then and there, then we can get the details after some time, after some period also, but it is all meant for your real-time data change capture. Okay, so now coming to the system of CDC in Salesforce, basically there are many summary of CDC which we have noted over here. First, it is a streaming product on Lightning platform. Okay, so streaming product, that means that when some events actually gathers into your Salesforce, or actually some event happens inside your Salesforce, that time, that particular event I would like to capture outside of Salesforce through an external system, right? So that time basically we use the streaming things, the streaming API. Now the streaming API can have your pull, streaming API can have your push. The pull things basically, whenever suppose an external system wants to get some details, that time they can pull as per the request basis or as per the need basis. But whenever the push will happen, the push is entirely, you can assume that that can be captured, or that can be achieved through your CDC. First. Second is that this is, as you know, the integration between a Salesforce data and the external system. And CDC is an outbound process, as I told you, and from Salesforce on real-time basis. And CDC supports CRUD and Undelete operation. When I'm saying that create, update, delete, and undelete, these are the 4 operations basically supported by CDC. Okay. Now, as I told you that CDC is nothing but a streaming push. Now, your question can arise that what is streaming? So streaming is nothing but give me a second, guys. Let me allow some person, Manish. Okay. So, as I was telling that CDC is nothing but a streaming push. You know that in Salesforce, there are a couple of APIs we are familiar with. One is your REST API, one is your SOAP API, one is your metadata API, tooling API, and similarly streaming API. Now, when the stream actually comes into the picture, you can assume the details. So with the naming convention itself, it is a stream. Okay. Now, stream means it is a following about the follow of the sequence, a sequence which is basically one by one. It is coming and it is pushing, or one by one it is happening and we are pulling. So either one by one event is happening and somebody is trying to pull, okay, or one by one event is happening or somebody wants to push. So that's all your streaming API. Now CDC is all meant for streaming push. Now, whenever the event happens, that time CDC sends a notification about that event to the external system first. Second is that this particular notification are sent to the event bus, to which the client can subscribe through a channel. Now, what is event bus? You just imagine a bus. The bus is a real life or real time bus where many people are sitting all together. Similarly, this is a bus where all the events are sitting together. As I was telling you that it is details, entire details or entire set of events, and with that particular set we are defining as a bus itself. So if it is a complete bus type of structure and that bus is full of event, CDC will help you to push one by one event to the external system through a channel. Okay. Now, this event-driven system streamline the communication between the distributed enterprise system, increase the scalability, and deliver real-time data. Now, what can happen? Suppose I am sitting inside a bus and that bus can go to multiple destination. The bus, while that will go to multiple destination, it will go via many places, right? So based upon your destination, the passengers will get down from the bus. Similarly, we imagine that this particular event bus is full of event, and this bus basically is subscribed by multiple systems. So whenever whatever event is required by a particular external system, they will get or they will retrieve that particular details from this bus. So this is all about your CDC overview. Now coming to this particular diagram, how it happens. Okay, so as we discussed, let's assume that I am creating an employee where first name is Jane, and what I am doing this particular creation of record in Salesforce. Okay, or I am just updating that particular first name from Jane to something else. That happened. I'm an user. I went to Salesforce. I created the record, or I updated the record, or let's assume I deleted the record, or let's assume I undeleted the record. Immediately, that particular event will be captured and stored inside a bus, right? So that particular bus is this particular cylinder. The cylinder will capture that particular event and it will sit, that event will sit inside the bus. Now what will happen? This external system basically we have designed or we have created as a subscriber. Let's assume that the external system is nothing but the subscriber of this particular events, because the publisher is your Salesforce. So now if the publisher is your Salesforce, the publisher publishes the details, that particular publish of the event is sitting inside a bus. Now the subscribe come into the picture and he will get the particular event details from this bus as per the requirement basis. Okay, so what happened ultimately? The subscriber, that means the external systems details or external systems records get updated whatever I have changed inside my Salesforce. Okay. Now, when you would be using the CDCs, so see, there are many integration techniques available inside your Salesforce. We have discussed many of them, but there can be a confusion that when to use CDC, when to use platform event, when to use REST, when to use so. Now, this is a basic thumb rule that some details or some of the assumption which we have to make that whenever there is a chance of continuous synchronization of the new and updated data to the external system. Okay, let's assume that I'm working in a call center. Okay, I'm working in a Vodafone call center, and each and every minute, basically, a request is coming, or somebody is coming, somebody is walking, somebody is calling, and they all want to subscribe the Vodafone. What I have to do, I have to just enter all the customer details, or I have to update that particular customer details as per the customer's requirement basis. Immediately, that particular details I need to send to an external system. Let's assume that Vodafone has a portal. From that particular portal, they are maintaining all of their billing information. Okay, so that billing information cannot wait till the night time, that when a bad job will occur and the bad job will push all the details throughout the entire day, that how many customers actually registered on a day in Vodafone. They want a real-time basis then and there. When I, as a, give me a second, guys. So what happens then and there, I want basically the details from my Vodafone system to the external system or the portal system, the record creation details or the record updation details. So simple formula is that if Vodafone using your Salesforce technology, just create a CDC, that's it. Okay, now what happens sometimes, the reconciliation of duplicate data between two systems. Let's assume that I have a system, I have a Vodafone system, and the Vodafone has a portal. That particular portal is built upon the .NET technology. Now what happened, that particular .NET technology portal system has a data, and my Vodafone Salesforce system also has the data, but there can be a data discrepancy because the portal system may be a legacy system. It was built in .NET long back. But what happened, this Vodafone system, they are recently upgraded to your Salesforce. So they are built with a recent technology. So there can be a data discrepancy, right? So what happened, you can do one-time data update or you can do one-time data cleanup. But suppose if you do not do that particular thing, then you have to do some configuration where the data sync happens without any headache. And that's the headache basically can be taken care by your CDC. Give me a second, guys. Okay, so now what I was all referring that Salesforce, while configuring the CDC, it will behave as a publisher and the external system will always subscribe that for CDCs. First. Second, very, very important, CDC will be supported for create, update, delete, and undelete. These are the 4 operations. Okay. Now, security. So while given all the details about CDC, the most important factor in the integration, as you are aware, that that's the security concern, right? So how we can maintain the security in CDCs? You can say that, hey, I am doing some event, I am just creating or updating a record in Salesforce and my external system gets the notification about that. But what about security? I mean, how the proper security mechanism will be established between your Salesforce and the other system? There are 3 things. One is there, this particular security in CDC will be maintained with 3 parameters which Salesforce defined. One is your field level security. So I will come into the details. So always remember that the CDC will happen in an object basis. So your CDC or change data capture basically will be happening on an object basis. Now when I'm telling an object, it can be your Salesforce standard object, it can be your Salesforce custom object. I'll go through the details just after some times. But as of now, considering your security, if my CDC is dependent on a particular Salesforce object, whether it is a standard, whether it is a custom object, but the FLS of that particular object is a major parameter of your security. Now your question can be, that particular object details or that particular objects is accessible by some of the profiles, by some of the users, right, based upon the profile. So the same things would be maintained at the CDC level. So suppose I am configuring a particular object is A. Now that object A is basically, I do not have any access. I do not have any access of the object A as an user. Now what is the user? The user is, let's assume, Salesforce Codex. So Salesforce Codex doesn't have any permission or doesn't have any FLS defined for object A. Now, when I am configuring my CDC on object A basis, that CDC will work? No, because the object itself is not given the full FLS, right? The field level security itself is not defined. Even if you create a CDC for that object A, how that will work? Because the user has not been given a proper FLS for that object. Simple, right? Now, the second thing is that the required permission of the subscription. There should be the user who would be creating your CDC. That particular users basically would be all defined and all maintained on your FLS label. So it always respects of your FLS, but it doesn't respect the sharing settings. You can assume that there are many things which we can manually share, which we can share as based upon the criteria, right? But CDC will just ignore all of this. Okay. And the third thing is that the encrypted Salesforce data. If Salesforce record fields are encrypted with sealed platform encryption, so if you have an idea about the sealed platform encryption, then you can assume that the sealed platform encryption is an encryption feature which is there in Salesforce, and there are two categories of the sealed encryption. I think one is one is deterministic and one is probabilistic, I think. Okay, so if you define any of this particular Salesforce sealed encryption, that means your entire set of Salesforce data will be encrypted, right? So if my all the data will be encrypted and those data are part of my object A, and I am defining that object A in my CDC, how that will be handled? That will be handled through your key, the encryption key, right? And your Salesforce certificates, how we are handling the other things. Okay. So the generic things, how we handle the entire security of Salesforce, the encryption and the decryption logic through our public key, through our private key. Similarly, this particular details will be handled when I will be defining the object as part of my CDC. Now CDC allocation, you can see this particular details which you have to always respect, that always in 50,000 basically 50,000 events, I would say 50,000 events would be delivered as part of 24-hour span. Okay, so event means create can be an event, update can be an event, delete or undelete, anything can be an event, right? So in application, in a Salesforce application, within 24 hours of span, if it is 50,000, then all the events would be received by the external system successfully. If it is more than 50,000, then you have to contact Salesforce, and they will happily increase this particular allocation. But I think they would be charging with a certain cost, basically that would be possible. Okay, so if you are using a different edition, enterprise edition, it is 25,000 events, and it is a developer edition 10,000. So in a day, basically, if you are using your developer edition and just send 10,000 events, you can send it. Now event publishing, so the publishing is basically it is a 250,000 for enterprise, and unlimited both the editions, and 50,000 in your developer edition. Now and what about your maximum number of entities, including standard and custom object, that can be selected for CDC? So that is very important, that how many objects basically you can select as part of your CDC, and that's where basically they are telling that only 5 objects you can do that. But certainly if your project is that much big or large, you may need some more objects, right? So that time again, you can just contact Salesforce, and they will do that. Now coming to the objects, that what are the objects basically you can include as part of CDC? You will always remember, any custom objects you can include as part of CDC. You create any custom objects, okay, and that particular object you can include for a CDC. But for the standard objects, Salesforce restricted, and you can see these are the details of the standard objects which you can include as part of the CDC. Okay, account, contact, role, asset, contact, product, order, task. So these are the only objects as part of the standard object you can include if you want to configure a CDC. But custom object, anything. CDC migrations, once you configure a CDC, okay, so you might have to deploy that particular CDC to a higher environment, to another sandbox, to production environment. How you can do that? Simple, with an Ant package, with a VS Code, anything. I mean, if you use a Copado, Flowsum, any deployment migration toolkit, you can just take care of that particular CDC by defining this particular details. If it is a standard object, then what you have to define? The selected object, the standard object account, then you have to just write down change event. But if it is a custom object, suppose employee is a custom object, that time you have to define employee _ change event. Okay, and what would be the type of that particular entity? It would be platform event channel. So suppose if I want to migrate a particular custom object, always we define the name as platform a custom object, right? So custom object we define as a name, and then members we will define all the custom object, that whatever the objects we want to migrate. So similarly here, basically we can write it down, that platform event channel, and the members, basically all the members, whatever the objects you define as a CDC, you just include all the members one by one. But always to defining the members, remember this thumb rule. If it is a standard object, always standard object name plus change event. But if it is a custom object, always the custom object name _ change event. That's it. Now gap
Dhanik,
and over.
one more short question, does it require any configuration to enable the CDC?
I'll go through. I'll go through the demo version. There, I think you will get the answer.
Okay. Yeah.
Let me finish the the theoretical and the slides, and then just I'll go through them. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
I think that will clear your doubts. Okay, so gap overflow, and before gap and overflow, I think okay, gap and overflow. Let's discuss about this. Okay. So what happens basically? Okay, or let me do one thing. Okay, let's go to the demo version first. Then I'll come to gap and overflow. So now this particular details that subscribes the CDC into a different system, right? So what we have done as part of this particular demo, we told that the Salesforce would be your publisher, and The subscriber would be a different system. Now, the subscriber, we thought of that we would be defining through a .NET application in the last session, where we have already done this particular demo using a .NET application, right? But unfortunately, my system was having some issue to install the .NET. So what I have done, I have used a connector. The connector is a EMP connector, okay? And I have used a Maven box. Now, Maven box is automatically a Java toolkit, okay? So the Java toolkit basically is part of the complete Java software. And here, EMP connector will tell you, or EMP connector will behave as a subscribed channel, okay? Or a subscribed application. You forget all the things that how we can get the details when we do not have a third-party application. But instead of third-party application, whether it is on .NET or Java, we are using here EMP connector. Now, EMP connector, you assume that it would be using, or it would be behaving as a third-party external application, okay? Now, coming to the standard object name change event, I already showed you these details: custom object name __ change event, everything, right? So now let's go to the demo section. So what I have done to configure that first, okay? First, what I done, I just went to my setup, okay? Now in the setup, always type change data capture, okay? Now, in the change data capture, you would be able to see, give me a second, guys. Where I am, where I am here. Yeah. Okay. So now what happens basically in the change data capture, give me a second. Okay. So now what I'm doing over here, I went to this particular change data capture, okay? So what I did, I went to setup, I typed change data capture, and I got this screen. And see here, every object is visible over here. But this all objects is always the same objects what I have listed and showed to you. As I told you that all the standard objects won't be supported through the CDC. So the objects basically which Salesforce supports, that would be your visible over here. That can be more than the details which I showed to you, because Salesforce actually introduced many more new objects, and the PPT which I have followed, that was a older version. Okay, so that is the reason you may find some discrepancies. Now, what I have done, I just selected this particular employee. So, okay, so this is a custom object, employee, okay? And this custom objects basically I selected as part of a selected entities, and I saved it, okay? And that's all. That's all my CDC change data capture basically I have configured. Now this employee, it is nothing but a employee object. If you can see, this is the employee object which I have created. Okay, so this particular employee object I just defined as a simple tab. Now what I'm going to do, and the second thing, so this is all about my Salesforce configuration. Now the second thing, as I do not have a .NET third-party application, what I did, I just installed a Maven box. Okay, so you can see this Maven home. Okay, so now Maven home is nothing but a Java toolkit. This particular Java toolkit you can download from Google, you can download from Trailhead, anything from you want. And once you Maven home kit, basically Maven software or Maven box, you download it, you need to download one more thing, which is the connector. Okay, so this connector name is your EMP connector master. Okay, so EMP connector, this connector would be running inside your Maven box. Okay, so what I did, I just opened my Maven box, and whatever I have installed this EMP connector, this EMP connector is also available in your Trailhead in your Google. You can easily download this EMP connector, but always remember this EMP connector you need to run into your Maven box. So how do you run that? You can do one thing. Just give me a second. Okay, where is that? No, 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 no. Where I have kept, where I have kept, where I have kept. Okay, I mean, there is certain command actually which you need to run while you just connect to the EMP connector. And the command is basically, okay, let me search over here. I can show you from here, guys. So what, where is that? EMP connector job. See here. Okay, I'm not able to find that particular command, but what will happen, the command is nothing but all a ready-made command you need to run, and with that command you need to see. Okay, I got it. So here is the command java underscore minus I mean hyphen jar target emp connector snapshot. Then what I have done, I have just username and password I have given, okay, with the security key. With the security key, if I will just enter, then it will be connecting with your emp connector. Now what will happen, so that means the connection got established between your Salesforce and your Maven EMP connector. Now your question can be that how do I understand, or how do this Maven box or EMP connector will understand that which particular event they need to subscribe. So while configuring this Java, then jar, then the user ID, what the user ID you are using along with the password. Okay, so if and the security key, right, what you have to do, you have to give the channel name. Now what would be the channel name for this particular thing? This is the object, and the object name is employees, right? So if I go, I showed you that object name is employees. Now then I had to define employee underscore underscore change event, right? That's what I told you. So if you do and if you type, that means this connector will always understand that, okay, if that is the event actually happen, that event I need to capture over here. Okay, so what happens if I will go over here and if I will try to create one new employee record? Okay, let's assume test, and the last name is test 123. First name is test 12345, and tenure is 10. Okay, and save it. Now what you will see over here, okay, so I have to give the user ID password again. Give me a second, guys. Let me log in again. Okay, and I'm sorry that I do not want to disclose my username and password. That's the reason I'm not sharing. Give me a second. So let me connect again. Okay, so let me share you my screen again, where I am here. Screen here, here. Okay, so now what I did, I just told you that how can I connect, right? And the same thing I did. I just type Java jar, then my user ID, the password, then security key, and then employee underscore underscore change event, right? So once I did that, and you can see that this is the details just now I received. Remember, if your application is not working at that time when you made some changes in your Salesforce application, then also it is not a problem. Why it is not a problem? Because it will be stored inside your event bus, as we told you, right, that every event will be stored inside the bus. Now once your application starts running, once your application will be online, that time that particular event would be captured, and that particular event will be retrieved whenever your application will start. See, just now I created the event. That means I created the test record. And what happened that time, my this connector was not running, or my .NET application is not running. But after some time when I logged in, right? So that time, what happened, I can see that I got a particular request. I got a particular details. What I got a particular details? See here. Give me a second, guys. What I got particular details, if you go over here and if you just check this particular JSON, this is nothing but a JSON formatter. So what I have received over here, simply I just copied the entire thing. Okay, the entire thing I copied and I pasted over here, and I just processed it. See here now the details. The first details is the first details is the first details is where is that? Where is that? Okay, so let's format. Okay, and let's process. You can see the details, right? I have created this particular name. I have created this particular last name. If you want to confirm, see, the last name is test123. The first name is test12345, and the employee name is test. The same thing has been captured over here. The name is test, the last name is test123, and the tenure is 10, right? So the every details has been captured by this connector or by this third party system. Now this is a format basically which you have to always take care. The format is based whenever any type of platform event happen in Salesforce, whenever any CDC happened inside your Salesforce, that time how the request actually transferred into the external system, that particular request will always have a standard format. Okay, and this is the standard format. If you remember, if somebody attends the last session where we have discussed about the platform event, this was the format. Similarly, CDC also follows the same kind of format. Now in this format, basically this is your header information. What are there in the header information? The schema. The schema would have a unique ID. Okay, that is the thing which you cannot control. Then the next thing is the payload. Now what is the payload? The payload is a header information where it will tell you the details of a particular event. What are the details? What is the entity name? Okay, the entity name is employee underscore underscore C, because it was my custom object, and on that custom object I have configured my CDC. This is the reason the entity name has been captured as employee underscore underscore C. First thing, what I did a create, right? So what I did, I just wait and just I create a new record over here. So that is the reason it says about create. Now, what about the commit user? This is my user ID where I logged in as that particular user ID and just I did that particular details. Then the commit number. So this commit number always would be a unique number. But what happens? This is unique as part of your sandbox. Okay, so each and every sandbox will have a unique ID, which or unique number, which is your commit number. Now, this particular details would have the child details, the body details. The body details will tell you what are the things basically you perform, right? What I performed, I just give the name as test, the tenure as 10, last name as test 123, right? And the last modified ID, this is the same ID as per my commit user ID, okay? So the same ID, basically it has been stamped over here. And what is the replay ID? As the replay ID would be your unique name, unique number. Now, this unique number is important and would be referred whenever your event bus will have many details. Okay, let's assume that my application was or my connector was shut down for 3 days, right? So what will happen after 3 days when I will open this particular Maven connector? That time all these events would be coming one by one, right? So when those all events would be coming one by one, you may observe that this particular ID is different one by one. So this particular ID, actually I can capture the details and I can do a post processing. Okay, so this is a simple details which I have done using my CDC. Now I have done the create things. Now let's do some update. Okay, so if I do the employee name update, let's assume just I'm doing test SFDC. That's all I am doing the update. Now what would happen? Do you really think that all the details would be again sent to the third party system? No, because only I am updating this employee name, right? So it should only send this particular details instead of all the details, because that's the behavior of a smart system. If our system will give all the details, then it would be a problem for this guy to identify that what got changed, right? So it will get all the details and it will confuse that what got changed. Now what will happen? I'm just updating the employee name from test to test SFDC. Now let's see what happens over here. Okay, so if you see here the test to test SFDC, it should come the request. Okay, test to test SFDC. This is a create, right? No, again my login is having some issues. So let's go over here and just edit employee or edit a last name as test123 to test SFDC 12345. Okay, and the tenure you just update as 100 and see what happens. This particular event is not getting flowed. I'm not sure why it is not getting flowed. This is again a create. Yes. Sorry, so it was just taking some time. Okay, so that was the reason, actually just I got a response a bit late. Okay, so what happened here now, if you just capture this particular details, right? Now you capture these details, you go over here and you just format this particular details again. Okay, so format it and you would be able to see over here, right? The same thing, the commit user was the same user and the change type, instead of create, it is an update. Okay, and if you can see the tenure and the last name, these are the two things basically I have updated. So the system is smart enough to capture only that particular details, and our CTC is smart enough to send this particular two details only. Okay, so this is how, if you just try to delete a particular record, okay, so let's delete this particular record, and even if you delete also, then you will get a request. Now see, immediately the response, immediately this particular events is flowing. Okay, so now if you go over here and you just format this particular response which I have received, these things you can see over here. See, this is the delete, and on the employee, see, this delete was happened. And what was deleted? Only this record ID, because while deleting I all bothered about the record which got deleted, and this particular notification says that, hey, you deleted this particular record from the source system. Now my target system should take care accordingly. Okay, now if you try to do a undelete, right? So if you want to do a undelete of the record, that also you can do. Simply you just go over here and you open your dev console, and inside your dev console, just go to debug, open execute anonymous window, and then you just undelete this particular record ID. Okay, so if you try to do undelete the record ID what I have deleted, this is the record ID. Let me go here, and this is the record ID, right? So this is the record ID basically I have deleted. Okay, if you go, I do not have that particular test record, right? The test record is no more. Now what I'm going to do, I'm just going to undelete it from my dev console. Okay, and if I do so, I can see there that the record has come or not. See, the test SFDC came over here. And what about the destination system? What about the subscriber system? See here, so I got this particular event notification. Now I'll go over here, I'll just format this particular details and see that what details actually came when I undeleted everything, whatever the record was there, it came. See here, undelete, and the details of the record, the first name, the last name, everything, because it was a complete new record creation of the structure. Instead of create, it is an undelete. That is the reason you can see undelete over here. So this is all about your CDC, when a CDC would be integrating between your Salesforce system and the external system. Now the Salesforce system would be your publisher and the third party system would be your subscriber. How that particular publication and the subscription will happen? Using the change event, that particular terminology, right? So because so when if it is a standard object, that time I will define the object name plus change event, that keyword. But if it is a custom object, how I will define? The object name, custom object name underscore change event. And that is the reason when I would be calling from the source system, I will define that particular channel, that employee name underscore change event. Then I will automatically get all the real time create, update, delete, undelete notification in my subscribe system. Now, if I will tell you that, hey, I do not want to go for any subscribed system, I just want to capture any particular event related to my create, delete, undelete or update, and I want to do some post processing inside my Salesforce. How can you do that? You can do it through a trigger. Now, how the trigger would be available, you can just write down a simple trigger. This is a trigger basically which we have created, right? So the trigger would be always based upon your employee underscore change event. The same thing, how I subscribed into my external system, right? But only difference is that this is a Salesforce trigger. Here, no third-party system is involved. Now, once I do or once I create a particular trigger, all this particular trigger is doing, whenever I am doing a create, update, delete, this particular trigger is also simultaneously firing. Okay, but how I will understand that the trigger is firing? See here, in this trigger, for your convenience, what I did, I'm just creating a task record. Okay, so if I will go and if I will just run a query, okay, so here if I will do select ID created date subject from task, right? So here just you can see here that this is the record. What time basically the last record got created? A29. So this is the record you can see here, follow up and employee records. So every time, whether it is a create, whether it is a update, delete or undelete, the same trigger I am firing and I am creating a task. That is the reason every time basically it is creating a new task record. And when I am just going and I'm just getting the details of this task, I can see that every time the task record is getting created. Now, if I'll just capture this particular detail, show what time it happened, 10, 10, 22, 33. What is the last record? Yes, that is the last record, right? So I can take the details of this, Control C, and let's go over here and let's just type this particular record and see here. See, this is the record. So at the same time, this particular record notification is going to your external system, and at the same time, your trigger is getting fired. Okay. So this is how you can configure your integration, which can be residing inside your Salesforce or which can be outside of your Salesforce, where you have to use underscore underscore change event if you are using a subscribed channel as a different system, or even if you are using the same Salesforce system, you can configure using a trigger. That's it. Now, one more thing, that when you just configure the trigger, there is some there is a need of the test class, which you can just refer Google, you can refer Trailhead. So that time basically you need to take care with some keyword like test, change event, trigger, enable change data capture, and get event bus.deliver. These are the three things which you have to remember while you writing down the test class. Okay. So this is all the basics of the CDC. And now the thing is, sometimes what happens, sometimes I told you that the create, update, deleted, and delete, these are the four events basically we can capture through CDC, right? But what happened, let's assume that there are accounts, okay, and there are accounts. Let's assume that there are 50,000 accounts inside our Salesforce, and every account has a contact, every contact has an order, every order has an order line item. So there are four hierarchies, right? So suppose if that particular account creation, or that particular if I would like to delete a particular account, that means account is getting deleted, a contact is getting deleted, the order line item, everything is getting deleted. Okay, and let's assume these all are basically your master detail relationship has been established between all these entities. Now once a particular four entities are deleted when I am deleting an account record, that means there would be an enormous number of events are firing to the third party system. So that time it would be an overflow, right? So if it is more than 1 lakh records, so that time basically it would be an overflow. And when that overflow will happen, you can always be able to see inside your JSON format the events is firing. Instead of undelete, it would be undelete underscore underscore overflow. Okay, so if the overflow also happens, the overflow you can capture, but you have to take a special precaution, because the change type would be changed. The change type would be not a simple create, delete, undelete, or update. It would be underscore underscore undelete. Similarly, if it is a kind of if it is a kind of gap happens in the sense when the transactions actually happens with some time difference, right? With some time difference, or with some difference with the more than 24 more than 72 hours of more than 72 hours, that time you won't be able to capture. But suppose if it happens more than 48 hours, that time that event would come as a gap underscore underscore create. So these are the things which we do not use very much, but for your knowledge sake, you can explore about this gap and overflow. But this is all about the basics and the fundamentals of your CDC. So here only I've concluded. I'm concluding of my session. Now, if you have any question, concern, please carry on.
Yeah, Danik. So this is all regarding subscriber and consumer concept, right? Means
Mhm.
one needs to be subscribed, or one need to be subscribed, and another need to be consumed, right?
One need to be published, one need to be
Yeah, yeah.
subscribed.
Publish and
Publish,
subscribe. Yeah.
correct. Publish, subscribe model. This would be.
Okay. And one more thing is, if it is we are not sending to third party system any kind of update, delete or create anything. So
Mhm.
if it is within the Salesforce, means a publisher is Salesforce and consumer also is Salesforce,
Mhm.
then we no need to do for connector and EMP connector and all. That is not
Nothing,
required,
nothing,
right?
nothing. But you certainly need to configure a process builder. You certainly need to configure or develop a trigger, right? So
Yeah,
that
trigger.
whenever correct. So as I showed to you, you can certainly write down a trigger, or you can just configure a process builder so that anytime you do create, update, delete, that time the post processing can happen based upon that.
Okay. And while configuring the object at the setup level, change data creation,
Uh-huh.
change data capture.
Mhm.
So only selecting the object and that is
That's
fine,
it.
right?
That's it.
No need
That's
of
it. Nothing.
any other
Nothing.
things.
Nothing. Nothing. Yeah, you're correct.
Okay. So selected entities it will populate and the background it will create that particular object name underscore change event.
That's correct.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, fine.
Any more question?
So it's a synchronous or a asynchronous process?
So it would be always your, suppose you are publishing something, right? So
Mm-hmm.
now once you are publishing, and if you do not want to wait for the acknowledgement, right?
Mm-hmm.
So as your FMP, just the connector, what we saw that the connector was receiving that particular details, right? But
Mm-hmm.
at the same time, the connector was not sending any response or acknowledgement back to your Salesforce, correct? So this
Mm-hmm.
was a perfect example of your asynchronous, right? Now, if you want to configure this as a synchronous, then what can happen? You just do some post processing instead of the connector. You in your .NET or the third-party system, you do shove, you write down, or you just trigger something so that your Salesforce would be getting the acknowledgement details. But as the example actually we followed over here, that was completely
Answer.
asynchronous. Yep.
Are you sharing? I'm
Hello.
not getting it. Are you sharing screen now? I'm not
No, no,
sharing.
I'm not sharing. I'm not sharing, Hanik.
Okay.
I'm not sharing. Okay. So the thing is that the example we followed over here, it was completely asynchronous. But yes, if you want to make it synchronous, you can make it. That's the provision you do have, but that's dependent on your third-party systems collaboration. But if you configure the entire thing in your Salesforce, you can make it synchronous very easily.
Okay. And if we are implementing trigger for CDC class change
Uh,
event, so it will be all the change, whatever changes fields are there, or whatever fields we are trying to publish, that will become as a header level, right?
That is correct. That would become your header label. So let me share my screen first again. So if I'll go and let me share my screen again. So if you are able to see my screen right over here, and now go to this particular trigger, what we have configured inside Salesforce, employee underscore underscore change event. Okay. So this is nothing but this is all your header. See here, the employee change event header. So this is the event bus dot change event header. Once you just write down your CDC details, including or using the custom object, this event bus automatically a keyword you can easily use. Under this particular method, you can use all these details, the change event header, and under the change event header, the create or update or delete or undelete you can define, and based upon that you can do a post processing. Does it answer your question?
Yeah, yeah. But one probably it's a dumb question, but what is the header uh, means if we as a layman, if I want to understand what is the header, then how I will get to know?
You do one thing. So first of all, just you do one thing. Go over here, okay,
Hmm.
and go into your setup,
Hmm.
okay. Under setup, just go to your debug, okay. Under debug logs, defined this particular debug, okay.
Okay,
So always
automated process.
remember that automated process, and
Hmm.
just your all this particular debug details should be coming over here, okay. So view that. So from here, what you can do, you can get all the details over here. That event employee underscore underscore change event, right? So
Hmm.
event over here. So everything you can get over here, right? So capture everything. Okay, Control C, and go over here and just into the formatter, just copy and paste over here. Okay, so process it multiple values, but at least there is some formatting or some problem is there. But the change event header you can see over here, right? The change event, what is the change type, and all those details you can capture over here, right?
Okay, okay. Hmm.
Okay. So similarly, you can get the details. Either you can format it properly. So it is not in JSON format. So that is the reason basically it is not coming properly for you. But from this debug log, you can easily understand, right? That what is the header information, what is the child information. Correct?
Okay, okay. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Got it.
Any
Yeah.
more question?
No, nothing from my side.
Hi, Sandra. Thank you so much. I have some questions.
Mm-hmm.
One confusion for me is the limits for platform event or change data capture are completely
Mm-hmm.
different from the API limits that we generally have for REST callouts or web service callouts, right?
Mm-hmm.
So these limits are different, and if we and those do
These
not
limits
count
are
as
different. These limits are different. That's correct. These limits are different. First, second thing is that the CDC would be applicable for a certain standard object. Okay, so all the Salesforce standard object doesn't support your CDC, but yes, all the custom object actually supports. The second thing is that the limits, the platform limits, entirely different than your CDC limit. The third thing is that though your platform event and the CDCs are serving the public, the publish subscriber model, but there are some differences, but there are more similarities. More than the differences, the similarities are more. Okay, if you see the message structure and the message details, you must have seen in the platform event the similar kind of message basically we retrieved by the third party system.
cool. Thank you. And other question is, so change data capture only works for like object to object data synchronization. It
That's
doesn't
correct.
work.
That's correct.
Doesn't
No,
work for
no.
like multiple object to single object, single
No,
data type.
no. That won't work. That won't work. But only thing is that always remember, guys. So this won't happen into your database level. Okay. So this would be still happening into your the business level, business layer level. So even if I am creating something, though I am doing some create operation, though internally it is all your database level, but ultimately it is affecting or it is following the business layer level. So even this is I'm updating a name, and whenever this particular names and details are getting changed, this events are following both. One is database level, one is your business layer level. But answer to your question that it always happen and it always follow only one particular object. Now in that object you just maintain many other relationship. Okay, so you may have the employee object, you do have employee objects, some lookup relationship, some master detail relationship with the other objects. So you are changing something, so that would be also affecting.
Okay. Coming back to the first question, let's say the external user has subscribed to a platform event and he's giving like you have showed in your Maven application, he's giving his username, password, and then the change data capture channel name.
Mhm.
Uh, Whenever he is getting the information that from that subscribe channel, he is not hitting any API limits.
There are
Like,
so they are not hitting the API limits, right? The API limits would be all your Salesforce specific. So while you would be generating the event, that time your API limit actually comes into the consideration.
okay.
So what I mean to say, if this is the limit and this limit says to you that, hey, I cannot generate more than 50,000 event, right? So in a day, if you create 50,001th event, that time that event won't be passed to your external system. You got my point?
Yeah, but the external subscriber also can receive up to 50,000 events.
Exactly. External system doesn't comes into the picture while the limits you're all you're ruled and completely driven by your Salesforce. So unless 50,001th event has been created in my Salesforce system, the external system doesn't bother, right? They will not know that whether you generated or not. But this particular event itself won't be able to capture 50,001th event would be not be able to capture by your CTC.
Okay, got it. Last question is, we can insert platform event in a trigger or in an Apex class. We
You
can do it.
can, you
Can we
can.
do it? Can we do the same thing with change data capture? Can we insert the change data capture inside our Apex class or Apex trigger?
You can, right? So that's where, so inside Apex class and Apex trigger. So see, give me a second, guys. So what happened if you go and if you try to write down a trigger? So the trigger is basically you just need to follow this particular structure. That's it. Okay. This particular change that the channel basically is the key thing over here. You
Right.
follow and you just use this particular channel name, use it everywhere. This particular channel is nothing but like an object, like we do right on account or on particular object, whatever. So this is the channel you have to follow and then you can use anywhere.
Sure. Thank you so much.
So then I have a question. Hello.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So suppose I have multiple system that can be consume this API. Like I
Mhm.
generate a generate a event from Salesforce, and there are multiple
Mhm.
systems. Like I have 5 systems, they can consume this API like this event. So how
Mhm.
many API will be counted in Salesforce? Or
Everything. So the Salesforce limit again, this will be followed as I showed to you that
Mhm.
this particular limit would be counted. Okay. So once
Okay,
this
so
particular events or once this particular count will be considered, and this will be all sitting inside your event bus. You remember the
mhm.
concept of event bus? So the bus is
Yes, yes,
nothing
yes.
but the storage. So once the
Mhm.
storage basically will be containing, and the containing of the details would always follow for your this Salesforce limitation. Okay. Now once this 50,001 event would be created, that won't go and sit inside your event bus. So if this won't go and sit inside your event bus, all the external systems, how many external system if you want to use, they won't get the details from here.
Okay, no, my question is, suppose I have only 5 systems, and I have only single change, like I have
I'm not,
account record.
I'm not getting your
A
voice.
single change
Sorry,
is done on account record.
you are breaking.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yeah, now it's better.
Okay, so my question is, suppose I'm doing changes on account record,
Uh-huh.
only single change.
Okay.
Okay,
Mhm.
so this single change can be listened by 5 systems.
So is
Okay.
it counted as 5 or is it counted as one single request?
Now it is counted as 5. Sorry, I'm sorry.
Okay, okay.
So basically what happened, this particular one event what be goes and sitting inside your event bus, right? So
Yes,
that
correct.
means you
Mhm.
created one particular account, right? Or you updated one
Yes,
particular account, right?
yes, yes.
So that would go and sit inside your event bus. Okay.
Mhm.
Now what will happen?
Mhm.
I have subscribed this particular underscore underscore change event using 5 systems, correct? So
Yes,
the
correct.
5 system would be capturing the same event details, right?
Yes.
So that means that is a single event. That means Salesforce always think that I have generated only one single event. So the consideration would be only one.
Okay, okay. I
Okay.
uh, okay, okay. And second question is
Hmm.
like suppose I have one means like I updated a account record and there is a process builder or a workflow rule. Okay,
Okay. Mhm.
it will also update the something field or something on same record like same object.
Okay.
Okay, so how many events will be published? Like single
Uh,
DML each request or it can be a
it,
whole
it would be
one?
it would be your multiple events, multiple DML will be published, and the all things would be considered. So if my account has a multiple dependency, as I told
Mhm,
you, that account has contact has an order has an order line item, right? So
mhm,
once I will try to create one account and simultaneously all my associate contact order line item will needs to be updated, that
mhm.
time all these DMLs would be considered multiple DML, and it would be consolidated of all the limits. So instead of one, though I am creating one event, but ultimately internally there are 4 events are happening, right?
Yes, yes.
So it would be consolidating all the events, and the Salesforce limit will considering all the events.
Okay, so two means like suppose I am updating account on parent level and workflow update same account record
Exactly.
on using. So here can
Exactly.
be two event will be published, right?
That's correct. Because you are updating account, you are updating account's child records, right?
Not
Using
child,
one of
same account by using process builder.
the same account and the same event you are firing.
Yes, suppose like you are changing name of the account and
Uh-huh.
there is a process builder. If name gets changed, you need to update something on same account record process
Okay.
builder.
The
So
DML would be definitely the Krishna. The DML would be two. Okay, one is
yes,
your account, one is your from your process builder. Okay,
yes,
but
yes.
the event would be only single.
Okay, so at the end, only single request will be published or two requests because first one is parent DML and second DML can be done by process builder or
Second,
any
second,
system.
second, second DML is nothing but you're based upon your first DML, right?
Yes, yes, correct.
But the second DML doesn't have any relation with your particular the first DML. I mean, it is basically based upon your the first event, right?
Yes.
So though it is a two DML, but based upon your single event.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Any more question?
Sayanta, is it possible to get these slides?
Yeah, yeah. Dhanik,
Actually, the
can
slide
you
is
publish
all the
these
slides.
particular slides? I'll send you these slides.
Yeah, sure. Probably all the slides of the
Yeah, yeah,
settings.
definitely,
Is it
definitely,
really?
Siva.
Yeah, thank you so
Sure,
much.
sure. Yeah. Okay, if we do not have any questions.